The film begins by showing a police officer named Rafi Bertrand giving instructions to his subordinates. Rafi is known to be a corrupt police chief planning to rob a bank in Paris to secure a large sum of money for himself and his team, motivated by greed and a desire to maintain power over his subordinates. To execute his plan, Rafi and his team of corrupt police officers plan to blow up a building to distract the Paris police force. However, before executing the plan, Rafi will spread rumors that the building was bombed by a terrorist group made up of Muslim citizens. According to the plan, the robbery and explosion will take place precisely on Bastille Day. Meanwhile, in a park, a woman is seen walking in a striking outfit, drawing everyone's attention with her bold actions. This opportunity is then used by a pickpocket named Michael Mason to carry out his actions freely. Unexpectedly, the woman in the park is part of Michael's gang, deliberately diverting people's attention so he can steal more valuables from his targets. At the CIA headquarters, a senior agent named Sean Breyer is called into his superior's office. It is revealed that Sean had made a fatal mistake by unintentionally exposing the identity of an informant who was supposed to be protected. Due to his carelessness, the informant was killed to prevent them from revealing the crimes of someone targeted by the CIA. Even though Sean did not intend to make this mistake, he is still punished by his superiors and reassigned to Paris for a mission. Meanwhile, Rafi's colleague, Jean, is trying to persuade his girlfriend, Zoe Neville, to bring a high-level explosive device into the targeted building. After a long time of persuasion, Zoe finally agrees to help with the robbery plan. If her action is successful, Rafi and his gang will have an easier time looting the bank. Back to Michael. He is seen selling his stolen goods to an African Muslim immigrant named Baba. Apparently, Michael has been pickpocketing to gather money so he can pay for his medical school tuition. Later, Zoe begins her mission by sneaking into the building disguised as an employee. In her hands, Zoe carries a bag filled with explosives ready to detonate the building. Since the building is empty, Zoe can carry out her mission more easily. Not far from the explosion site, Jean, along with Rafi and their men, are monitoring Zoe's movements to ensure their plan to blow up the building goes smoothly. At the same time, Michael is also near the Parliament building, preparing to carry out another pickpocketing operation. Back to Zoe. After successfully entering the building, she placed a bag filled with explosives in one of the corners. During the act, Zoe was caught by an African Muslim immigrant who worked as a janitor in the building. Not wanting any casualties from the upcoming explosion, Zoe quickly took the bag back and hurriedly left the building. Seeing Zoe leaving the building, Jean immediately called Zoe and ordered her to return inside and place the bomb-filled bag. After being pressured by Jean, Zoe finally agreed to go back inside. However, she needed a few minutes to calm herself before completing her mission. At that moment, Michael, who happened to be around the building, saw Zoe sitting alone. Seizing the opportunity, Michael swiftly snatched the bag that she was carrying. When Zoe realized her bag was missing, she panicked and immediately reported it to Jean. When Michael opened the stolen bag, he felt disappointed as it only contained a doll, a wig, and a cell phone. Nevertheless, Michael decided to take only the cell phone and threw the doll and other items he deemed unimportant into a trash bin. A few seconds later, the doll suddenly exploded, killing 4 people on the spot. Michael, who survived, panicked and chose to flee from the scene. Meanwhile, Rafi felt relieved after the bomb inside the doll finally detonated. Although it didn't go as planned, the explosion still caused chaos in the city. Moreover, Rafi deliberately spread rumors on social media that the explosion was just the beginning. In these rumors, many residents felt uneasy, hearing that something even more terrifying would happen within the next 36 hours. Amid the increasingly tense situation, the head of the French police, Victor, was forced to hold a press conference urging the public not to panic, as the Paris police would soon apprehend the bomber. Based on CCTV footage that was found, Michael was seen carrying the bomb bag, and being an American citizen, he was quickly identified as the main suspect in the terrorist attack. Not long after, at the CIA office, Sean was assigned to capture Michael, as his actions had tarnished America's reputation. Additionally, his involvement posed a significant risk to the relationship between France and America. After further investigation, the CIA began to suspect that Michael was merely a scapegoat, considering his background as an amateur pickpocket. To prove this, the CIA needed to capture him before the Paris police did. Shortly after, the CIA swiftly tracked down Michael's residence. Without wasting any time, Sean began his mission to arrest him. Switching to Michael, he was shocked to learn that he had been framed as a terrorist, especially since the bag wasn't his, but rather belonged to the woman he had stolen it from. Michael thought that if he explained the truth to the police, they wouldn't believe him, given his background as a pickpocket. Even if the police did believe Michael, he would still end up in prison for his previous thefts. With no other choice, Michael decided to flee with the money he had stolen. Sometime later, Sean arrived at the building where Michael lived and immediately headed toward the pickpocket's room. At the same time, Michael also realized his arrival, so he quickly fled. Once Sean noticed Michael's attempt to escape, he immediately chased after his target, leading to a pursuit. During the chase, Michael attempted to disguise himself to throw Sean off, but his effort failed, as the police was not easily fooled. In the end, Sean managed to capture Michael without much difficulty. Switching to Zoe, the bombing that killed several people had left her overwhelmed with guilt, causing Jean to try and comfort his girlfriend. Not long after, Jean learned that Rafi and his men had arrived at the hotel where they were staying. At that moment, Jean was convinced that Rafi and his men had come to eliminate Zoe in order to erase all witnesses. As a result, Jean, not wanting to see his girlfriend killed, urged Zoe to escape through the back door. Back to Sean, in a room, he began interrogating Michael about the location of the next explosion. Unfortunately, Michael, who knew nothing, insisted that he had no knowledge of the matter. He explained that he was not a terrorist and that all the chaos was simply a misunderstanding. Michael also mentioned that he had stolen the bag from a woman in front of the Parliament building. Switching to Rafi, he was frustrated after failing to capture Zoe. As a result, along with his partner, Rafi attempted to track her phone, which was now in Michael's possession. Meanwhile, Sean was still unconvinced that Michael was just an ordinary pickpocket. To prove this, Michael even secretly stole his wallet, leading Sean to tie him to a chair. At the same time, Rafi and his men, disguised as couriers, headed to the location where Sean was still conducting the interrogation. Realizing this, Sean immediately went downstairs with his weapon. During this time, Michael managed to free himself from the restraints and left the interrogation room just as Rafi and his partner attempted to attack Sean. Upon seeing Michael took advantage of the chaos to escape, Rafi and the others quickly pursued him. On another place, Victor's men is seen approach Baba, asking him to help the police capture Michael in exchange for citizenship for him. If Baba refused, French immigration would deport him and his family back to Africa immediately. At the same time, Victor met with the CIA deputy director, who was Sean's superior, named Karen Dacre. Victor had already heard that the CIA was involved in the capture of Michael, so he requested Karen to halt the mission immediately. However, Karen stated that the CIA could not overstep the French authorities in making the arrest. Switching back to Sean, who informed his superior about his failure to capture Michael. At that moment, Sean also stated that after interrogating Michael, he felt that the man was innocent. Apparently, his suspicion was reinforced by the appearance of Rafi and his men, who attempted to capture Michael. Despite this, Sean's superior warned him not to be easily swayed by the claims of an amateur pickpocket. Meanwhile, Rafi, the corrupt police officer, received orders from his superior, Victor, to raid a mosque suspected of being the headquarters for the terrorists behind the previous bombing. Unbeknownst to him, Victor had fallen for the false rumors deliberately spread by Rafi to divert the attention of the Paris police, allowing Rafi and his gang to carry out their robbery undisturbed. Without wasting any time, Rafi and his men raided the mosque. They immediately planted explosives in the mosque ceiling to make it seem like the worshippers were part of the terrorist group conspiring with Michael. The discovery of these explosives further escalated tensions in Paris, as many local residents demanded that all immigrants, especially Muslims, be expelled from France. In response, the Muslim community staged mass protests, believing that the discovery of the explosives was an attempt by irresponsible parties to frame the Muslim population in France. Switching to Michael, who went to Baba's house to hide, as he allowed him to stay. However, unbeknownst to him, Baba immediately reported his presence to the police. As a result, Rafi and an armed squad surrounded Baba's home, with a sniper positioned on the rooftop. Realizing the police were closing in, Michael quickly escaped through the back door. After successfully getting out, Michael narrowly avoided being shot by the sniper, but fortunately, Sean arrived just in time to save him. Frustrated by his failure to capture Michael, Rafi became even more agitated. He then devised a new plan to capture Zoe before Sean could, as this was the only way to prevent his and his gang's crimes from being exposed. Meanwhile, Zoe was hiding at her friend's house, an activist named Tony. On the other hand, Sean contacted his superior to track Zoe's location, using the pretext of searching for Michael, even though he had already been captured. Sean did this intentionally to uncover the mastermind behind all the chaos in Paris. Additionally, Sean suspected that Zoe was the only witness who knew the identity of the true mastermind. As a result, it didn't take long for the CIA to locate Zoe's hiding place. Soon after, Sean and Michael finally arrived at Tony's house. At the same time, Tony realized they were coming, so he quickly and discreetly took Zoe away. However, before leaving, Tony managed to set Sean's car on fire to slow him down. Left with no other option, Sean broke into another car to pursue Tony, while Michael discovered the address of the cafe where Tony worked from the phone found at the house. Switching to Rafi, he intentionally recorded footage of a corrupt police officer beating a protester. He immediately uploaded the video to social media to incite public anger and escalate the situation further. Soon after, Rafi also received information about Michael's location from the GPS of the car that Sean had stolen. Elsewhere, Sean and Michael were already in front of the cafe where Tony worked. While waiting for the police to arrive, Michael shared with Sean that the reason he became a pickpocket was to gather money for his medical school tuition. A few moments later, Tony arrived at the cafe, prompting Sean to ask Michael, the skilled pickpocket, to steal Tony's wallet. By obtaining his address, they planned to locate Zoe, who was believed to be hiding at his home. At the same time, the viral video uploaded by Rafi successfully provoked public outrage, causing the unrest to intensify. Upon arriving at Tony's place, Michael and Sean immediately snuck inside. Zoe suddenly emerged from her hiding place and threatened Michael with a knife. However, Sean managed to turn the situation around. After being persuaded by Sean, Zoe eventually agreed to talk about the bombing incident. At that moment, Zoe revealed that her boyfriend, Gene, had asked her to plant the explosives with the goal of inciting mass chaos. Unfortunately, Gene never told her who the mastermind behind the bombing was. Upon learning this, Sean decided to take Zoe to meet Gene. However, during the journey, their vehicle was blocked by Rafi's car, leading to a shootout. Despite the confrontation, Sean managed to escape. Meanwhile, Victor was forced to tighten security and announced to the public that the city was in a state of emergency, urging residents to stay indoors. Shortly after, they arrived at Gene's house, but Zoe and the others were shocked to find Gene already dead. Unexpectedly, Gene was revealed to be a police officer, and Sean immediately reported this information to Karen. At that moment, Sean also informed Karen that Michael, who had been on the run, along with the key witness Zoe, were now with him. Hearing this, Karen instructed Sean to hand both of them over to the Paris police. At the same time, the CIA was no longer able to intervene as the French Minister of Defense had taken charge of the case. In response, Sean agreed to turn over Michael and Zoe, but he demanded full protection for the two key witnesses. Soon after, Karen met with Victor and informed him that Michael and Zoe were now with Sean, who willing to turn them over, provided full witness protection was guaranteed. Karen also told Victor that Michael was innocent and had been framed by the true perpetrator. The real mastermind behind the bombing was Gene, who happened to be one of Victor's men. After that, Karen called Sean and gave him the address for where to hand over the two witnesses. However, Victor suddenly shot Karen, as he was revealed to be the mastermind behind all the chaos in Paris. Victor then contacted Rafi and ordered him to take Sean, Michael, and Zoe to an isolated area to execute all three of them. Once they were dead, Victor and his team would proceed with their plan to rob the bank. A little while later, Sean and the two witnesses were picked up by police officers sent by Victor. Sensing something was off, especially after noticing a tattoo on one of the officers' wrists, similar to the one Gene had, Sean immediately fought back and subdued the corrupt officers. Meanwhile, Victor publicly announced that the city's security would be taken over by French intelligence forces, including guarding the bank. In reality, this was part of his plan to rob the bank. At the same time, Sean was on his way to the bank that had become the target of the robbery. On the other side, Rafi and his team had begun infiltrating the bank to loot everything from the vault. This large-scale robbery was being directly monitored by Victor. Apparently, they weren't stealing cash or gold bars but digital currency. When Sean arrived at the bank, he instructed Michael and Zoe to stay in the car while he infiltrated the central bank disguised as one of the corrupt officers. After successfully sneaking inside, Sean engaged in a shootout with the corrupt police force inside the bank. Outside, Michael and Zoe ended up joining the protesters and managed to break into the bank. Soon after, Sean managed to find his way to the vault, where he defeated the corrupt officers, leaving only Rafi, who immediately called Victor, demanding to be picked up by helicopter. If Victor refused, Rafi threatened to expose all of the corrupt police chief's crimes. In short, Rafi had already transferred all the digital money from the vault to a flash drive. Without wasting time, he then tried to escape the bank through the front door. Realizing this, Sean immediately instructed Michael to pickpocket the flash drive from Rafi's hand. It didn't take long for Michael, who was wearing a mask, to successfully steal the flash drive. When Rafi realized that his flash drive was missing, he was certain that Michael had stolen it. As a result, Rafi threatened to kill Zoe if Michael didn't return the flash drive immediately. Reluctantly, Michael revealed himself, taking off his mask. As Rafi prepared to kill him, Sean appeared just in time to save him. At the same time, Victor assigned an officer to eliminate Rafi to prevent his crimes from being exposed. Meanwhile, the flash drive containing the digital money remained in Michael's possession. Following these events, Victor received public praise for capturing Rafi, who was framed as the mastermind behind the large-scale robbery. However, Michael was still being pursued as a fugitive by the Paris police. The next day, Victor met with Baba and forced him to reveal Michael's whereabouts. Afraid for his life, Baba told Victor that Michael was likely meeting with a Turkish immigrant to obtain a new passport to flee France. On another day, Michael met with the Turkish immigrant in a church. However, waiting inside the church was Victor, who proposed a deal to exchange the flash drive for a new identity and $2 million. With no other option, Michael accepted the deal. Victor then took Michael to a secluded location for the transaction. Upon arrival, Victor intended to kill Michael, but Sean suddenly appeared with the police. Victor's crimes were exposed, thanks to a confession recorded by Michael using a phone. It turned out that this meeting had been prearranged by both of them to trap Victor. In the film's conclusion, Michael is cleared of all charges, as are all the Muslims who were falsely accused of being terrorists. Additionally, Sean recruits Michael to work for the CIA, utilizing his pickpocketing skills. Moral lesson from the story: if you plan to steal a bag, maybe check if it's explosive first, or else you might end up trending on most wanted list. And remember, if someone says it's just a doll, there's probably a boom waiting for you.